At 6:17 a.m., a pearl-white SUV parked sideways across my farm gate, like it had a deed to the road, and a guy in a vest that said, HOA Compliance Patrol, started ripping my warning signs off the fence and tossing them into the mud. The woman behind the wheel leaned out with that bright, practiced smile people use when they think they're untouchable, and she said, "Caleb, take that barrier down now, or we will." Then her officer snapped bolt cutters onto the wire, and in one sharp crack, their whole little authority fantasy started coming apart right in front of me. Yeah, that happened. My name's Caleb Warren, and I run Warren Hollow Farm in rural Oklahoma. Nothing glamorous, just pasture. A stubborn creek that likes to jump its banks when it rains. A barn that's been patched so many times, it's basically a quilt and a cattle dog. Named Boone, who treats the property line like it's the border of a small country. You know what I mean? This land's been in my family for 3 generations. My granddad worked it, my dad worked it, and I came up learning the same quiet rules. Fix what breaks, don't borrow. Trouble, be decent to people because you might need them. When your truck dies 20 miles from anywhere. And I tried to live like that, even when a new subdivision popped up along my east boundary a couple years back. Silver pines, meadows, all neat sidewalks, and matching mailboxes, and little ornamental trees that look like they were planted with a ruler. I didn't hate it, I really didn't. Folks need homes. I get that, but it changed things. The nights got brighter, the mornings got louder, and strangers started appearing closer to my fence line than I was comfortable with. So I did what any normal person does. I tightened up the gates. I posted a big private property, no trespassing sign, and I went on with my life because most people, even in a shiny new neighborhood, understand the basic concept of that's not mine. Then, one foggy morning before dawn, the kind of fog that turns your own pasture into a gray hallway, I'm walking out with a feed bucket, and I hear metal scraping metal from the eastern fence. Slow, steady, deliberate. Not wind, not a loose latch, not a raccoon doing raccoon business. Something with hands and intention, and my stomach does that little drop it does. When your body figures something out before your brain wants to admit it. I set the bucket down, pulled out my phone, and hit record. Because out here, if you don't document it, people will look you dead in the face and act like you're making it up. I walk toward the sound of slow boots sinking in wet earth, and through the fog, I see this guy halfway over my fence, mid-40s. Maybe clean vest, crisp white letters on the back that read, Compliance Patrol. Like he's a superhero from the worst comic book ever. And the weird part is how comfortable he is. Like he's done it before. He drops into my pasture, barely makes a sound, and he pulls out a little device like a survey tool and starts taking readings near my creek. Crossing, pacing off distances, scribbling notes, staring at my gate like he's planning a route. Boone is with me, hackles up that low warning growl he saves for coyotes, and I'm standing there thinking, okay, maybe it's a lost contractor. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. But the vest, the equipment, the way he moves, none of that feels lost. It feels like a job. Before I can even decide whether to confront him, he climbs back over and disappears toward the subdivision, like he's clocking out. And I'm left with fog. A recording on my phone, and that sour feeling you get when someone takes a liberty on your land, like it's nothing. 2 days later, an envelope shows up in my mailbox that looks way too official for a random Tuesday. Heavy paper, shiny seal, big header. Silver Pines. Homeowners Association. Property Standards. Division, and it claims my farm has regional compliance violations, and demands official access within 10 business days. It threatens fines, enforcement action, and escalation. And it's written in that legal-sounding language that's designed to make regular people panic and comply before they even ask a question. Except the contact email at the bottom is a Gmail address. Gmail. Not county, not state, not anything that would stand up in daylight. Just Gmail, like somebody printed a costume and hoped it would scare me. I'm still standing in my kitchen reading this thing when Boone starts barking the real bark. Not the mailman exists. Bark. And I look out, and there's this pearl-white SUV in my driveway, and out steps Lori Pritchard. Blazer heels, clipboard hair, perfect smile, already loaded, and she knocks like she owns the porch. "Caleb Warren," she says like she's confirming a target. "I'm Lori Pritchard, president of the Silver Pines HOA board," and she holds out a paper like she's handing me a prize. $500. First citation for non-compliance. You have 48 hours to remove the barrier and allow our compliance officer to inspect your creek line. Your property affects community standards. I remember staring at her for a second. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because the audacity didn't fit in my head yet. Like trying to pour a gallon into a cup. I kept my voice calm because I was raised to be polite, and also because I could feel my temper tapping on the inside of my ribs, and I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. "Ma'am, I'm not in your HOA," I said. "I'm not in your neighborhood." Lori tilted her head, like I was adorable and wrong. "Your land affects our neighborhood," she said. "We protect property values. If you refuse, we escalate." Escalate to who I asked. And her smile tightened just a little. To enforcement. And right then, the vest guy steps up from behind her like he's been waiting. And he says, "You're being recorded as hostile." "Sir, hostile? For saying no to strangers inspecting my land. You can't make this up." Lori walks back to her SUV like she's done her civic duty, and I'm standing there with a fake citation in my hand, watching my dog guard my own porch. Feeling small in a way I haven't felt since I was a kid, getting talked down to by adults who thought their title made them right. After that, my quiet routine turned into a daily invasion. Early mornings, someone at my fence line. Sometimes the vest guy. Sometimes another guy, with gloves near the creek. Sometimes a truck parked on the county road for 20 minutes. Like they're sightseeing. But the driver's holding something up to his face that looks a lot like binoculars. One day, a drone hovers over my barn roof, and Boone loses his mind barking and jumping like he can reach the sky, and I'm standing there with my coffee thinking, is this my life now? Am I really the guy in a rural county arguing with a drone? I call the sheriff's non-emergency line because I'm trying to do the right thing, and I get the same honest answer every time. If they're gone when the deputy gets here, it's hard to do much, and I get it. We're spread out, deputies can't teleport. But knowing the limitation doesn't make it feel any less violating when you see footprints in your pasture that aren't yours. So I adapt. I install more cameras. I angle one at the east fence, another at the gate, another toward the creek crossing, and I start keeping a log. Like I'm some kind of private investigator's 8-time. Weather faces, equipment vehicles. Because that's what it takes to be believed. When someone with a clipboard decides you're an easy mark, the stress creeps in. Not dramatic movie stress, just real-life stress. The kind that steals your sleep in little pieces. My cattle stop grazing the east pasture and bunch away from that boundary. Boone starts pacing at night and checking windows like he's on patrol. and I catch myself scanning tree lines instead of enjoying my own mornings. On the 6th day, I find a metal survey stake behind my barn. Not at the boundary behind my barn, half buried like they hoped I wouldn't notice, and I pull it out and wipe off the mud, and the label makes my throat go dry. Phase B, resource priority, creek access. That's not HOA language, that's development language. That's somebody looking at my water and thinking, profit. I call Denise Alvarez at County Planning. Denise has been there forever. She knows every map, every district line, every little patch of who owns what. And I ask her straight. Denise, is any part of my farm under Silver Pines HOA? She doesn't even pause. Nope, she says. You're outside any HOA district, and there is no county registered property standards division for Silver Pines. That letter is meant to scare you. That's the first time in a week I feel my spine straighten, because now it's not just my gut telling me something's wrong. It's the county saying it out loud. I take the letter and my footage to Hannah Price, local attorney boots to court kind of woman, the kind who can say Your Honor, and still look like she could fix a fence in the same afternoon. And she watches the clips, reads the fake letter, and she says, "They're trespassing, impersonating authority, and building a paper trail to intimidate you. That's a scheme. Don't give them a scene they can twist. Give them evidence." I tell myself I can handle it. I'm not the type to panic. But then my neighbor Earl Watkins rolls into my driveway one evening and says, "You get one of those HOA letters," and when I hold mine up, he nods like he expected it. "Mine said my tractor violates quiet hours," he tells me. "My cousin said his pond is a mosquito hazard." Same threats, different excuses. That's when it hits me. I'm not the only target. I'm just the closest. And something about that makes it worse, because it means they're organized, and organized bullies don't stop, because you ask nicely. 2 nights later, the mask slips completely. Unknown number. Calls smooth voice on the other end, polite like a salesman. And he says, "Mr. Warren, this is Miles Carr with Redwood Ridge Development. We've heard there's confusion about compliance standards. We'd like to discuss a purchase offer that resolves these issues." I swear I could hear him smiling through the phone, and something in me just goes cold and clear, because there it is, the real thing underneath the costume. I say, "So the HOA isn't the issue. The HOA is the costume." He chuckles like I said something cute. "Look," he says, "you're sitting on a valuable access corridor. We can make this easy, or we can let the process play out. The process like it's a river. You can't fight, like it's gravity, like I'm supposed to accept that my family's land is just a future plan on someone else's spreadsheet." That's the moment my polite switch breaks. Not the screaming kind, the quiet kind, the kind where you stop hoping people will be fair and you start preparing for them to be exactly who they've shown you they are. The next morning, I hire a licensed fencing contractor and upgrade the east boundary with a properly permitted deterrent system. Bright warning signs, reflective markers. Everything documented, everything above board. And I don't do it because I'm trying to hurt anyone. I do it because I'm trying to stop the daily trespassing without having to physically confront people who clearly don't respect boundaries. I also hand the layout to the sheriff's office because I'm not interested in playing games. I want a clean record, and I want it impossible for someone to stand there later and pretend they didn't know. The contractor glances at Boone, watching from the porch, and jokes, "Even your dog doesn't buy this HOA nonsense," and I manage a tired laugh. But inside, I'm mostly just relieved, like I've finally stopped apologizing for existing on my own land. That night, I sleep for the first time in weeks, not because I think it's over, but because I know whatever comes next will be on camera in writing and on my terms. And sure enough, the very next morning at 6:17 a.m., headlights wash over my gate. Boone goes from asleep to soldier in half a second, and I look out and see Lori's pearl-white SUV parked sideways across my entrance again, plus a work van behind it. They're not sneaking anymore. They're performing. Lori stands in my driveway like she's posing for a brochure, coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other, and behind her is Gavin Rourke in that vest, and two other guys carrying bolt cutters and a toolbox, like they're the maintenance crew for reality. Lori waves like we're neighbors and yells, "Caleb, we're done playing games. Remove the barrier now. You violated HOA safety standards." I step onto my porch with my phone recording heart pounding, but my voice steady. "Lori, you're trespassing. This is private property. Leave." She smiles wide, that customer service smile you put on when you want to look reasonable for an imaginary audience. "We have authority," she says. "Your fence is a hazard. You're restricting emergency access." I point at the warning signs that they cannot possibly miss. It's marked. It's permitted. And you know it. Gavin starts yanking down the warning signs one after another, like he's clearing a stage, and one of the other guys laughs and says, "Man, these farm boys love their little scare tactics." I feel something bitter rise in my throat, because that's what this is to them. A joke, a stereotype, a little movie they think they can direct, because I'm the guy in work boots and they're the ones with laminated papers. "Lori," I say louder, "tell your people to stop. Deputies are on the way." She leans in and lowers her voice like she's sharing a secret. "Call whoever you want," she says. "When we're done, you'll be paying fines you can't afford." Then Gavin lifts his bolt cutters and says, "Watch this." Fake power, and he clamps down onto the wire. I'm not going to turn a human moment into a cartoon, but I'm going to tell you the truth. The second metal meets that line. Gavin jolts hard, stumbles backward, drops the tool, and hits the dirt with his eyes wide. One guy rushes in to grab him and instantly jerks back. With a shout, the third tries to help and regrets it. And for a few seconds, it's Boone, barking wind, moving through grass, and three grown men on the ground, realizing physics does not care about your clipboard. Lori's face changes in real time. The smile vanishes. Her eyes flick to the torn signs in the mud, like she's doing liability math. And she screams, "You tried to kill him!" And I walk down my steps slowly, still recording. And I say, "No, Lori." He removed warnings and tried to cut a marked fence. He did that to himself. Right then, a pickup rolls up behind Lori's SUV, and Deputy Cole McNally steps out. Scans the scene like he's reading a headline. Blocked gates, scattered warning signs. Bolt cutters, three guys trying to act tough. While their hands shake, and he says calm as Sunday morning, "Who's in charge here?" Lori snaps, "I am. HOA president." He set a trap. This is assault. Deputy McNally looks at the fence, then the signs, then my phone. "Ma'am," he says, "those signs look like they were removed." Gavin tries to point at me like we're in court. He booby-trapped it. The deputy sighs. The kind of sigh that says he's heard every version of nonsense. A properly marked deterrent fence isn't a booby trap. Cutting someone else's fence after removing warnings, that's vandalism. Then he turns to me and asks the question that changes everything, "Mr. Warren. Do you want to press charges for trespass and property damage?" And I swallow hard and say, "Yes, sir." And I've got weeks of footage. A week later, Silver Pines holds a community meeting at the local Grange Hall, and Lori tries to do damage control with a projector and printed packets like she's giving a TED Talk on why my existence is inconvenient. First slide is an aerial photo of my farm with big words, "Threat to public safety." And she's talking about hazards and community standards and emergency access. And if you didn't know the story, you might think she's being responsible. That's the scary part, because people like Lori are good at sounding official. But then old man Roy Caldwell stands up, slow, steady voice like gravel, and he says, "Show the document that says your HOA has authority over land outside your boundary." Lori blinks. It's implied, she says, and Roy doesn't even raise his voice, he just says, "Authority ain't implied. It's written." Denise Alvarez raises her hand from the side and says, "For the record, the county has no HOA jurisdiction over Warren Hollow Farm." None. A woman in the back asks, "Why do you have aerial photos of his farm?" "Did he give permission?" Lori hesitates. Gavin stares at the floor, and you can feel the room shifting, that subtle change when people realize they've been asked to clap for something that doesn't make sense. Lori gets flustered, and when she's cornered, she spits the quiet part out loud, sharp and defensive. Because Redwood Ridge needs to assess the corridor for acquisition. We're protecting development plans that benefit the community. And the room goes dead quiet for half a second, like everyone just heard the truth fall out of her mouth. Then people start murmuring, loud, angry, confused. And I stand up, not yelling, not performing, just done. And I hold up the fake letter. "They sent me this," I say. "They trespassed. They tried to scare me into letting them inspect my creek access. I found survey stakes behind my barn labeled Resource Priority. That's not HOA. That's a land grab." Hannah Price stands beside me and says, calm as a judge, "We've filed a complaint with the county prosecutor, and we brought copies." And that's when a county investigator walks in with Deputy McNally, and the investigator looks straight at Lori and says, "Lori Pritchard, you've been served. Please step outside with us." Lori goes pale, not embarrassed. Pale. Oh no. This is real pale. She looks around like somebody will save her, like the word HOA will form a shield, and nobody moves. She follows them out, and before she disappears through the door, she turns back and locks eyes with me. And the look isn't apology. It isn't regret. It's calculation. Like she's already deciding what story she'll tell next. That should have been the end. The satisfying movie ending where the bully gets exposed and justice rides off into the sunset. But real life doesn't always do clean endings, because a week after that meeting, I get a certified letter from Redwood Ridge Development, real letterhead this time, and it offers to purchase access rights and warns me about future legal remedies if I continue obstructing regional planning initiatives. And Denise tells me off the record that Redwood Ridge has friends in places a small farmer like me doesn't. And suddenly, I'm sitting at my kitchen table staring at a piece of paper that smells like money and pressure, wondering if Lori was the mastermind or just the loud mouth they paid to do the bullying. Wondering how many other folks got pushed around because they didn't have cameras, or a Hannah Price, or a neighbor who compared letters. And I'm also wondering something that keeps me up at night, if they were willing to climb my fence and fake authority to get at my creek. What happens the next time someone decides a piece of your life is an access corridor? So I want to ask you seriously, when someone in a blazer and a nice SUV claims authority, do you automatically believe them? Or do you demand proof? And do you think an HOA should ever get to bully people outside its own neighborhood? Just because money is involved, drop a comment and tell me who you think was right. who was wrong, and what you would have done if you were standing on that porch, watching somebody tear down your warning signs like they were trash. And if you've ever seen someone abuse a title to push around the wrong kind of neighbor. Tell me your story too, because I promise you, you're not the only one. And the way we talk about it, the way we compare notes, that's how these little schemes stop being quiet and start getting daylight.